Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It is May 10th, Mother's Day in some parts of the world. Any mothers who celebrate Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to you. This past week, there were 2 days of Ebola headlines that have drastically slowed down since this past summer. But just like this past summer, the Ebola headlines are still by the numbers, and I want to show you just how sad it is, Truth Seeker. This is important information. I also want to remind that if you don't already check out my written blog, please do that. freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. With regards to Ebola, if you go to the top left corner of my blog and type in Ebola, there are so many posts. I've been documenting so much of this Ebola hoax, and throughout so much of it, the number 33 has been coded in, central in all sorts of scare stories, even including viral epidemics. The entire story of AIDS is centered around 33. And with regards to Ebola and AIDS, the AIDS outbreak story started in 81, 33 years before the Ebola outbreak story of last year, 2014. So same numbers, same types of details, and even this week, almost a full year later, we're getting stories by the numbers. Let's start with yesterday's news out of Liberia. Liberia was said to have gone 42 days without a case of Ebola. Late last year, Chuck Hagel's a 33 name, made a 21-day quarantine rule. So Liberia exceeded the quarantine rule by twice, going 42 days. And think about this, True Seeker. I've been doing a lot of posts about how the numbers 59 and 42 are coded on black Americans all throughout history, as well as Africans. I've talked about the word kafir and the word you know it, and how the numbers 42 and 59 are within, plus a whole lot more. And here we go. 42 days on May 9th for Liberia. And Liberia, Truth Seeker, Pythagorean gematria sums to 38, which is another number that's been important to this Ebola story. Let me explain that. Ebola was discovered in 76. 38 years from 76 is 2014. So 38 years since discovery. The first person to contract Ebola in the United States was named Nina Pham. Nina, a 38 name, Pham, a 38 name. Put it together, it sums to 76, like the year Ebola was discovered. And now here we have this big story about Liberia going 42 days on May 9th without having a new Ebola case in the country. Hoaxalicious. And then there's Liberian Pythagorean gematria. Plenty of headlines about this yesterday. The 42 days on May 9th. Think about all the experimentation in this country that's been done against black Americans. Tuskegee to crack cocaine. This is all part of the same epidemic, all ran by the same gang. People need to learn to put two and two together. This gang treats the whole world as guinea pigs, but they got it out the most for black people. At least so it seems. So here's another good one, Truth Seeker. 2 days before that story, Thursday, May 7th, we were told about this doctor who found Ebola in his eye, Ian Crozier, and we'll get more into his name. But this story broke on May 7th, Truth Seeker. The New York Times broke it on 5/7. The word vaccine has a simple English gematria of 57. Remember, we learned a lot about 57 in regards to the UK elections and how this number's been important throughout history. This is one I've even been overlooking, but now here it is, jumping out right in front of me. Ebola vaccine. Ebola vaccines in plural is 111 simple English, 666 English gematria. Likely not a coincidence, seeing as how all these numbers are mimicked from the Bible. So with regards to this doctor in this story, let's look at it in greater detail. His name was Ian Crozier. He's said to be 44 years old. The name Ian Crozier in simple English gematria sums to 64, like the word in Pythagorean gematria sums to 64, like thelema in simple English. And Ian Crozier in simple English gematria sums to 118, another number of significance. The company Nike has the phrase, just do it, sums to 118. Nike sums to 39. In our own nation, it was James Madison who was obsessed with the number 39. Madison equals 39 in Pythagorean gematria. He once made 39 proposals that became the Bill of Rights on a date with 39 numerology. He wrote this paper, Federalist Number 39, on January 18th, 118, in the year 88. My point is, Truth Seeker, is these numbers are of much importance. They seem to connect to Thelema and this culture of do what thou wilt. And now think about that in light of viruses being used on people for strategic purposes, whether it be population control, money making, what have you. It doesn't really matter. It's disgusting no matter. Also, his initials, IC, for Ian Crozier, break down to 9-3, the number of Thelema that represents do what thou wilt. You know, it's all here. Some people say I'm manipulating numbers. I say no, I'm just taking the numbers are here, using the rules that have always applied to this gematria that's been with humanity for thousands of years, and this is what it reveals. And this is what it connects to in our nation's history. You know? This was another headline. Late last year, Ebola survivor. This was in regards to Ian Crozier. His story broke on December 27th. 12 plus 27, 39. The best word for the virus is aggression. A word that breaks down to 114 simple English. And 51 Pythagorean, the number of conspiracy. Ian Crozier said to be 44 years old. He was treated this past winter at Emory Hospital in Georgia. Look, Emory has the gematria of 76, just like the year Ebola was discovered, again tying in. Sierra Leone, where he contracted it, has 67 gematria, the flip of 76. There's his age, 44, the kill number. Relentless truth seeker. Got so many headlines this past year about Ebola, all by the numbers. And what I want to point out is that once upon a time, I just did a video on manifest destiny and Thelema and how it's coded into the beginning of this nation. It's one of my better posts, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. On your web search, you can just type in Zachary K. Hubbard manifest destiny. It'll pop right up. It'll be right at the top of your browser. Anyhow, at the beginning of this nation, it began with a genocide of the natives, and that was done with smallpox, or the scientific name for smallpox is variola, a 33 word. You know? Here it is, 33 within deadly infectious illness again. All through history, Truth Seeker, what's happening now are just tricks of the past. Americans have been duped into this idea that things have always been this certain way, it's always will be this way, but it's so ridiculous. I mean, the United States hasn't even been here that long as a nation. 400 years ago, there were natives standing where we're standing. They hadn't been wiped out by the genocide yet. Things haven't been the way they are as long as we think. So from variola to AIDS to Ebola, you can see it all comes from the same gang of people. Yesterday, the racist headlines. Earlier in the week, the headlines foreshadowing what's coming in this nation. Vaccination. At the very least, it'll probably be mandatory for public school students by some year, not as far away as we think. Who knows, it could even be a talking point by the upcoming election cycle. We might have another summer of even bigger Ebola scares just in time for voting. That's pretty much the extent of the message, Truth Seeker. Until next time.